I've got a friend I've known for years and years and years, and way back in the days of regular analog telephones, I was over in his house one day and the phone rang, and it rang and it rang and it rang. And it was like he didn't even hear it. And I was like, hey, you going to get that? Are you going to answer the phone? And he goes, no. He says, the phone has no constitutional right to be answered. And I was just like, what? Okay. Anyway, then I just started laughing because it was so appropriate and funny, but it was also crazy accurate. And there were so many levels to that it was just an awesome little reply. And that was kind of his motto on life, because he knew if it was important, they would leave a message. And if not, then no big deal. And he didn't have to answer it just because it rang. And I grew up in a household that if the phone rang, everybody was jumping to go grab the phone. If the mailman came, all those kids would run out there to be the ones that grabbed the mail. And we were always hopeful that it'd be some friend or some letter for us or something like that. Anyway, that's a whole different story, I guess. But that was kind of the growing up that I had. So for him to have that just surprised me. It just seemed so. Is that even allowed? And it took me a moment to kind of compute that and to be able to adjust to that. And then when I did, I could see the value in it and the wisdom in it and the beauty of it. And that's pretty cool. These days, where we've got our cell phones that are with us 24/7, sometimes multiple phones, our computers, all the devices that we have, our tablets and everything, we are kind of available 24/7. And it's kind of crazy in that this has just kind of crept into our lives, and that's kind of the expectancy that everybody's available always. And sure, we may not choose to answer the phone sometimes, return a text or whatever, but there is that push to do so, or that feel to do so, or that guilt sometimes if we don't. And that's kind of wild. I mean, because of business, I keep my phone near me at night, and because of a few friends and stuff. And, I like to think that for the businesses that might call, they might pay attention to the time zones and realize, we're 5 or 6 hours ahead. So if we call now, it's going to be 2 or 3 in the morning. And many times that's the case, but not always. There are times, and it's laughable. Unfortunately, I wake up easy and I fall back asleep easy. But it's laughable sometimes, the amount of times people don't do the time zone math, especially if that's a big part of their business as project managers and stuff. But again, another story. But the thing is that we have our cell phones and all our devices. And at any given time, we have phone calls that could be coming in. We've got texts that can be coming in. We've got messages coming in from all our different apps. We've got calls and video calls and WhatsApp and just notification after notification. Notifications for emails, for almost all the apps want to have notifications anymore. And so if we just let them all flow freely, just the bombardment of it all is just crazy. And that's just wild to think about. And while there are plenty of apps that help you control that, we can put our phones on Do Not Disturb. We can choose to answer or not answer. We can choose when to take our calls and such. Nevertheless, the bombardment is still there, and the expectancy is often still there. And sometimes the guilt is there, and we don't like to, as a general rule, dodge calls or not respond to things. And it's an interesting equation. It's got a whole life of its own, and it can rule us. It can dominate our lives. It can be a harsh taskmaster if we let it. And I think as a general rule, folks are pretty good about understanding not to let it, to be able to control it to some degree, but it's still there, and it's still invading, and it's still trying to get our attention all the time. And we live in a world now where everything is vying for our attention. We've got ads, and we've got doom scrolling, and we've got, binge watching of movies, and just there's ads upon ads and everything, and it becomes more and more so, and it's just so invasive. And the part about it that really gets me sometimes when I think about it is that, number one, it's really invasive. It is a cause, or can be a cause, of stress all by itself. for a lot of people. And there's also just our devices, if we don't control our usage of them, just take our attention away all the time. So it ends up where everything is vying for our attention. And so we have very little time for our thoughts, to be alone, to be uninterrupted. And that is a really big deal. We need time to have alone time. We need to have time to be able to sit with our thoughts. We need time to be able to face our thoughts and our notions and the things going on in our heads. We need time to be able to process things. And sometimes it is just chaotic and invasive and just an onslaught. Fortunately, there are tools we can use, or apps we can use. We can use Do Not Disturb. We can just choose not to answer our phone. We can turn off the ringer. Sometime back, several years ago, actually, I realized that the ringtone that I had by default on the phone was kind of jarring and almost anxiety causing. I think I'd had a lot of calls coming at the time or something like that. It was just a constant interruption, and the ringtone was just, it kind of would put me on edge a little bit. And I was like, wait a minute, I can change that ringtone. And I know a lot of folks change their ringtones all the time, and we can change ringtones for different peoples and stuff. I've got one client that I don't want to do business with, and they call and they call and they call and they call, and it's just obnoxious. And so I just made their ringtone more of a comical one, so that when the call comes in, instead of being bugged by it, it just kind of makes me chuckle. And so we have that ability to be intentional about how we use our device and how we choose to let our devices use us. And that's a really big deal in life. And unfortunately, it's such a big part of life that it's something that if we don't tend to it, it will tend to us. And it's just one more thing to be conscious of, to be intentional about, to set the boundaries with, and to figure out how we're going to use it, whether as it's a tool, or whether it's going to use us and just crack the whip on us. I've heard plenty of folks where they will schedule their day in such a way that they will not answer emails or texts or messages and stuff like that until a little bit later in the day, so they can take care of during their optimal time of the things they want to take care of, the things that are efficient for them, the things that are effective, and then later on deal with all the other fluff. And designate a period of time so it's not a constant interruption. There's so many ways to handle this, and lots of videos and books and stuff that give you all kinds of ideas and things, but it is worthwhile to just put a little brain on it sometimes and think, oh, if we're not already doing that, oh, I can systemize this and use it as a tool and regulate it in such a way that it doesn't interrupt me all the time, or that I'm the one in control of when and where and how. And that's something that we can forget sometimes, as we just go through running from the start of our day to the end of our day, trying to take care of all the loose ends and all the things that are going on. So if I'm preaching to the choir for you and this is something you already do and take care of, then yay, good for you. If not, or if it's something that could use a little adjustment and you haven't really thought about in a while or ever, then it's worthwhile thinking about. And it feels, I got to say, when I set just that little act of changing my ringtone so that it was more friendly and not jarring, and the same with my alarm when I wake up in the morning, felt like a victory, because I was doing something intentional and setting a boundary and setting the parameters that I wanted that to operate in, instead of it just doing whatever it was doing and I was having to react and suffer the effects of. And how many things do we do that in life with before, ding, it hits us in our head and we're like, oh wait, I can do something about this. So if you haven't thought about that, then ding, you can do something about this, and have fun with it, play with it, enjoy it, and don't let it roll over you, and take your time and your day back, and all that. So yeah, if you don't mind, leave a comment with when this, if it has, occurred to you, and how you adjusted and what kind of difference it made in your life, because I'm curious. We're all connected in life, and it's fun to hear other people's perspectives and experiences, and just know that we're not the other ones going through these sort of things in life, and other people are, and here's what they've got. And sometimes those perspectives and those ideas can be really helpful. It's like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. That would be really great to do. And let's help each other out and just share. So anyway, thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one.